I'm the Kristen Carberry. Oh, recording in progress. There we go. Kristen Carberry, Dufferin Soil and Crop President. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Hopefully everyone's safe inside and hopefully we don't get any crazy tornado warnings. It seems like that's a regular occurrence nowadays. So glad that everyone's here today to join us. Just 1 second here. Let me share my screen with you. Just to begin, in lieu of holding an in-person event, we've made a donation to our local 4-H organization. And if you're interested in any further information on that or looking to donate, just contact Brandy McCabe. Her information's right there, and we can also share it in the chat. Also, just want to give a quick shout out to the Ontario Soil and Crop Association. They provided some funding for our videography equipment, and it's going to make it possible with some of these virtual events to continue with some higher quality video footage. And also, of course, thank you to our sponsors listed here. Without their support to make our organization and events like this and others possible. So our agenda tonight, we have Lois here to give us an update on the environmental farm plans. And we have Bert from Tupling Farms, as well as Brian French from Lennox Farms, to kind of give us a taste of some diversity in Dufferin. And before we begin, I would also like to ask that if you have any questions, please address your questions in the chat box during the presentation, and hold off your questions until the presenters either are asking for questions during the presentation or at the end, we'll go back to what's in the chat box. With that being said, Lois, would you like to share your presentation?
Sure, it's just verbal. I really don't have too much to say. We don't have any numbers as far as statistics for last program year as yet. So do apologize for that. Not sure when we will get those numbers, but it's always good to share. So program year 4 will be completed under the Canadian Agricultural Partnership program on March 31st, 2022. So we're looking forward sometimes in between now and March to have a new program begin, the program year 5, to continue the last year for the Canadian Agricultural Partnership. So always good for producers or people to have their environmental farm plan workbook completed, up to date, ready to go when funding is announced. We never have much time. It's usually a week before, around a week before, that we know what the eligible projects might be, and then usually close to a month to get those applications in. So almost impossible to complete an environmental farm plan workshop, have it reviewed, or even to do the electronic version prior to applying for cost share in that month's time. So that's always recommended. Growing Your Farm Profits workshops are available as well. You can do it online. There's an online version as well. If you need that link, please let me know. It's not easy to find. And then biosecurity workshops, we're starting in-person ones. There's also webinars that you can register for, but the first in-person one is in November in Kirkton, which is in Huron County, but we will have more if we have interest. Just to mention the environmental farm plan, we started doing in-class workshops beginning August. So the list of available workshops are growing that are posted on the website. So keep checking that. If you don't see one, give me a call and we'll try to get one close to you. May not be in your backyard, so I must say that. We may have to travel to get these workshops done. And I know harvest is coming up and it's been a very trying year and a half, but we must follow those COVID-19 protocols in workshops just to be safe and remain safe. And we make it work. We'll get it done. We'll get you through and on to where you need to be. So beyond that, Annie probably has more association news because we're not out and about as much anymore. I have none. So Andy will cover that. Just a note too, not sure if you're ever interested in the Huron County Soil and Crop Demonstration Project at Huron View. I went on a tour there today. Things are looking good. Not many results are ready to be shared as yet, but they're still working on it, how these contoured drains are working, but definitely been an improvement since the first time I was there. And as you all know, Vanastra is just outside of Clinton, south of Clinton, I guess. So anyway, I will carry on. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Be ready for funding, get your workshop done. And if you have any questions at all, please give a holler. I know I've directed some producers to Dufferin County Soil and Crop. Hopefully they have joined. So we want to keep everybody in the loop as best we can, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lois. Is there any questions? All right, thank you. We'll move on. Jim Irvin, would you like to take things away?
Okay, thanks, Kristen. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Bert Tupling of Tupling Farms. Bert's parents, Mel and Irene, started farming in 1944 near Honeywood. At that time, they grew potatoes on only 4 acres of land, and they ended up storing those potatoes in the basement of their home. That business has grown to close to a 4,000-acre operation, which allows the Tupling family to operate a 2 to 3 year potato rotation, wheat, barley, corn, hay, as a rotational crop, some of which may be used for cattle finishing in their operation. Today, the Tupling family grows 17 different varieties of potatoes and can store up to 50 million pounds of potatoes to meet market demand. In March of 2017, the Tuplings suffered a severe setback when fire ripped through their main facility. Since that day, they have rebuilt and have a state-of-the-art potato packing facility. Tupling Farms is a family business which includes Bert and his wife, Pat, and their sons, Andrew and his wife, Jennifer, Aaron and his wife, Dawn, and their 3 grandsons and 2 granddaughters. Tupling Farms is a longstanding member of the Dufferin Soil and Crop Improvement Association. And at this time, I would like to call on Bert to tell us about his operation. So welcome, Bert.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate the kind words. I'm muted okay, I hope. We have strived since and before 2017 to make this a progressive farm, and with the help of all the family, that's what we're achieving today. And I wanted to mention that we got grandchildren involved, and naturally at 15, 16 years of age, one of them a bit older than that. The oldest one actually works on the farm full time. And to me, that's a great thing to see, because the future is the youth that we have. And I'm glad that probably a lot of my family are going to be a part of that. If we wanted to start the video, Kristen, we'll talk. And if I lose, get behind or something, I'll ask you to pause. But I think the first we're going to show about is, yes, here's the start of, we've been digging potatoes now for about 4 or 5 days and storing them within storage. That's a 6-row windrower that goes ahead on the left-hand side, and there's a 6-row windrower on the right-hand side. And we'll see the potato harvester come in a few minutes. So we're digging 16 rows at a time and loading trucks in the field with some of them 40,000 hundredweight or 40,000 pounds, and some of them 35,000 pounds. If you're not doing that in there's the harvester, that's the potatoes going up the harvester bed. If you're not loading that truck in 6 minutes, everybody's phoning and asking what's going wrong. Which in the potato operation, there seems to be a considerable amount from time to time go wrong. But anyhow, we're doing our best, and I think everybody deserves credit for what we're doing. One of the major things, and I gotta be careful what I say about it, that's a bin on the back of the harvester that allows the truck to be loaded. And whenever that truck is full, it'll move ahead. He'll shut the bin off. There we are going down the field with a 6-row windrower ahead and a 6-row on the other side and the harvester here. If we load that truck, it'll go ahead and move out of the road, and there'll be another truck come in behind without having to stop. Those happen to be Yukon potatoes that if you're looking at, they look a little specky there, but that's the way the nature they come out of that particular field, and they're washing up pretty good. We've already washed some and sold some of them. Quick thought there, that's a swinging boom that he can move sideways when he's loading the truck. And I think right when Krista took this picture, Bert was driving a 4-row windrower, and at the time we were digging 20 rows at a time, yielding pretty good, and Bert bunged the bottom or the cross conveyor. So that's why she had a chance to get out and see what's taking place. We have a Lockwood windrower on one side and a Lenco windrower on the other side. We're not partial to very much of anything. We'll take whatever works the best for us, and that's what's working right now for us. If we would. Do you have pictures now of the pack going into the storage, Kristen?
Yep, just 1 second here.
Not
Sorry.
a problem. You're doing better than I could with it. This is what we call a tub or an even flow. There's lots of these used in the back of trailers to move bulk potatoes. So you put the potatoes in there so that they're being as good on handling them as we possibly can. That's the sorter, we call it. And behind that, we'll likely see some conveyors going directly into the bin, and then a piler in the bin. We have to unload that truck of 40,000 or 35,000, whatever it is, in the 5 or 6 minutes. And in potatoes as far away as we have in towards Dundalk, we will be moving. It'll take 6 to 8 trucks for us to keep everything going. That's a picture of the potatoes going into the bin. Maybe if we just stop it there for a second, Kristen. These walls that's in the storages are pretty much all made of 3 inches of concrete, 3 inches of concrete, 3 inches of insulation, and 5 inches of concrete, and they're put up in panels. And if you see out to the side here, we've got, you can walk right around the whole building from one side to the other and see the top of the pile of potatoes when it's put in. Any day of the winter time. And all the potatoes are loaded out of that facility with skid steers into the trucks and brought to the pack line. The culverts that you see standing, that's how the air gets through the pile of potatoes. There's holes in those culverts that you lay at what we call 4 and 8 on the clock, and that blows the air up through the pile of potatoes. All the conveyors are linked together so that we can, anything happens, they need to shut one off, they shut the whole works off. Little safety feature that we invested in a few years ago was a genie, so that when people have to work on equipment or on one of the walls, clean the walls and that kind of thing. It's all done on a safety factor. That's the back of a bulk potato truck. So that's how the potatoes come out for anybody that doesn't understand. That's how the potatoes come out of the truck and into those bins. We use a lot of triaxle trucks, in fact, 6 or 7 of them for better traction in the field. And then, of course, we still have tandem trucks that we use at the same time. Jim mentioned quick. Go ahead, Kristen.
Sorry, I was going to say, are you wanting to talk a bit more on that or move to processing?
No, we'll move to the processing. I was just going to comment on what Jim said. We presently on the next road over the second line of Malmer from the home farm, we're finishing about 2,500 head of cattle a year. Some of them we buy and leave out west for a period of time until they weigh in 850 to 950 and then bring them down here and finish them here. The last 2 or 3 years, we bought very little other than a wee bit of dry corn and supplement. All the rest of the crop is produced off the farm. I like to think of it as a circle. So we've got wheat, barley, we've got high moisture corn, we've got alfalfa, and then the potatoes get the benefit of all the nutrients off that, cattle manure, straw both sides. And then we're finishing those cattle around 1,550 to 1,600 pounds. Going directly to St. Helens, just because I got started quite a few years with them and I'm willing to continue with them. They've treated us well. And biggest problem is we like to get a little more money sometime, but we find them to be fairly fair with us. So this is where the potatoes come in. They come in from what we call a dirt room, which is to the south. We built a potato storage 17, 100 feet wide and 200 feet long, and took a quarter of that to do the dirt room. It's flumed. The potatoes are flumed underneath to the conveyor that goes up there. We don't see potatoes here right now, but that's then come back into a water tank of damp potatoes. We got some benefit out of fluming them that distance in the washer. This is the conveyor that goes underneath that wet bin, and then that's the washer right there. We go beyond the washer, and the washer is just like washing your hands. We go to on-wheel washer, and we have an auto sort back at the back, and this is a sponge drying that takes place with the potatoes. I missed the bin that I was going to mention. Just a second, it'll come back. Anyhow, let's stop there for a minute, Kristen. These are blue bins that we use for under the water lines or under the culls or into the potatoes that come out of the water, the back of the washer, if they're hollow, will float. And that comes out and into the blue bin. This is a conveyor that goes up from the back of the washer. That's our inventory of bags and stuff that we have at the back end. Here's a grader, right? Chris, just stop there if you don't mind, please. That's a bin that, or that's where the people grade. Most cases, the auto sort will work well enough to give us 70 to 75, 80% of a grade, but we put people on behind to do a little better grade to meet the standards that we need. So then there's one conveyor up and there's another one right behind it, and it goes up on top to what we call an Exeter sizer. It's a lane sizer, and every potato goes down that lane. There's the two lines coming up. This is the lane sizer. Every potato goes down that lane sizer end to end. And on down, we'll see in a few minutes here. That's the screen, that's this screen that lights flash and tell the on down the line, this is a certain size potato. It has to be kicked off here. Right there. Whoa, can we stop right there? Where these potatoes go down the line, they are kicked off, and we can grade everything from 2 ounce or 2 inches right up to, Andrew will put potatoes that, for people to help understand the size of potatoes that's going into the food service sector. Most of them will be 7 to 8 ounce up to 12 or 13. And that's what the Swiss Chalet stores. Swiss Chalet, not through us directly, but Swiss Chalet is one of the biggest markets that we service. These are 4 bins on one side, and there's 4 bins on the other side that we can have certain size potatoes in for certain markets. You got to dictate to the market needs of the people. And so there is so-and-so that we sell to, and he will want number 1, and he'll give you the asking price. And this guy over here, he isn't quite so particular, and he's certainly not particular about giving you full value. So he'll sell it, he'll get them for 10 cents, a 10-pound less, and your grade can be a little less attractive from that side of it. But you got to challenge the market. You got to know your markets. You got to know who you're dealing with. And there's certain people who want number 1 only, and there's certain people who will accept the other side of it. That's a good overshot. There's, as I said, 4 bins on the other side. Expansion today to Tupling Farms, and it's already in the works for this coming winter. Will be 2 more bins down at the end there to allow us to have more potatoes on hand. One of the things you seem to struggle with in the industry today is just in time. They want the potatoes tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. They didn't want to phone us and tell us what they wanted until 2 o'clock this afternoon. So we have to be prepared to put up 1, 2, maybe 3 tractor trailer loads. We can speculate on some of those tractor trailer loads, but you don't know exactly. Some of those might include 50-pound bags, some would include 10-pound bags, and some of them would also include boxes, which by boxes, count boxes that are 70 potatoes in a box, so that's 70-pound potatoes in a 50-pound box, or it could be 80 potatoes, or it could be 90, depending on where the store is that they want to go to. We sell quite a few of those through wholesalers, and we have some direct contact again with the likes of Swiss Chalet. This is part of the lane sizer. She came down the line, and this is part of the lane sizer that is shows us the. I just didn't get one there quick enough, but anyhow, that's that side of it. I think when she turns around, you'll see the palletizers. For those, if we don't see them, I'll point them out in a minute, but the palletizers will palletize 50-pound bags, 20-pound bags, 10-pound bags. Generally speaking, replace 3 people. In the 50 pounds, definitely 3 people. In the 10 pounds, as much as 4 people. Since the fire, we're working with almost the same number of help. And further to that, then we are putting through about 50%, maybe as high as 60, 70% more product through. We worked for, my dad and I started to pack in 1984, and we worked until we kept adding more buildings, adding more things. We could never have room enough for this sizer. This sizer came from California. It's built in California. But we finally got enough room after the fire to get this in place and have the holding bins. The thing that I guess I want to say is that it is very important to meet the market needs. You've got to have the product, and you got to have a reputation to sell. One of the things I'm very disappointed in, that I like to comment, is that everybody wants to deal with the big guy. And I never intended our operation to get as big as it is, but at the same time, I have always wanted to see younger people get started into it. Today, I got to be pretty careful what I say, because there are a few who are starting in a small scale, but in order for it to market 1,700, 1,800 acres of potatoes, you have to be able to answer the phone. And when they say to you, can you deliver 7, 10 tractor trailers to us by Sunday night? Don't want to work on Sunday either, but I'm afraid that's the way we are. They'll get 2 of them on Friday, they'll get 3 or so of them on Saturday, and they'll always want 3 or 4 on Sunday. But it's the way the world is today, and in order to deal with them, you got to do what they want you to do. I'd answer any questions. If anybody had questions that went over fairly quick. That's the dock doors down at the bottom there, an overall picture. Those doors down at the bottom, we can put the trucks all inside, 4 of the trucks inside at night. And the drivers, one place we deliver, we have to leave at 2 o'clock in the morning. Most of the time they leave at 4 o'clock in the morning, but the trucks are all inside. And for all of you who know Dufferin County, and many of you know 24 highway, it's not always the best of climate conditions to be leaving in, but at least the trucks are stored inside. The truck's in good shape. They can open the doors at the back and shut the doors and still have room to tilt the hood on the cabs of the motors of the trucks with a 53-foot reefer on. So younger generation likes to run in running shoes. That wasn't what I was growing up with, but they can hop out of their half-ton and into the nice warm truck to head off to deliver potatoes. Going quickly, if I can catch it, back behind is the 2 palletizers. That's the 50-pound palletizer there, 50-pound palletizer there, and there's the 10-pound palletizer there. We talk about being a League of Nations. That's the weigher for how the potatoes are put in the 10-pound bag. That's a 10-pound bag there, and you see it there again. We've got weighers from Germany. We've got sewing machines and packagers from Spain. The palletizers are for Netherlands. We've got other German pieces of equipment mixed in the mix here. That's the doors into the trailers. The washer was from England, but HJV bought the patent out, and it's now produced in Canada. And that's a palletizer. This is a unique thing in that the one conveyor takes all the 10-pound or all the 50-pound out. So you put it'll come out the other end actually. They come out and come this way. And so they can be picked off and put. A lot of our potatoes are packed and put into the trailers in almost the same day. If we get a little overage, it'll be packed in a room that we have to keep it cool. But most of our potatoes are just in time. They're packed, get loaded into the truck, and by early morning tomorrow morning, they'll be on the road to the warehouse, to the wholesalers, to the food terminal, wherever we're destined for that day. I kind of interrupted. Is any questions that anybody has?
Do you use much offshore labor?
Yes, good point. We at packing time or at harvest time, we'll have 10 offshore workers here. And everybody has to go home by the 15th of December. And our earliest return will be the 4th or 5th of January. Puts Tupling Farms in a pretty tough position because Christmas time is one of our biggest market times. But we'll have 4 or 5 of them, 6 of them come back in January. They will go home, and the other 4 or 5 will come back or will come in April, and they will stay until we're completed the harvest in mid-October or 1st of November. And then the 6 that had been, or 5 that had been with us all winter, they will be here and stay until they have to go home on the 15th of December. So it works in a calendar year, isn't really the market year for, or isn't really the time frame for marketing potatoes, but we've made it work and we'll do it again. That's
Bert,
when.
Bert, do you grow enough potatoes to satisfy all your customers, or do you buy from other growers in the area as well?
We don't buy from other growers in the area, Jim. We do buy some early potatoes from southwestern Ontario, Leamington.
Yeah.
Got contacts there. But this year, everybody's talking about what good things happened this year and what didn't happen so good. But I want to share that this year, Andrew sold the last 2 tractor trailer loads on the 29th of July. And on the 30th, we went to the field and dug the first new potatoes ourselves out of our own crop. Everybody must know this operation takes a lot of money. So it's nice to have new crop coming in and help keep the bills paid as you're going along. But a lot of the potatoes since the acquisition of the Bonnyfield era was taken over, a lot of the land, I should have said, was taken over by friends, neighbors, and competition. But a lot of those acres are going towards chipstock potatoes. Not a lot of them are going to fresh market. We ourselves have changed where this year probably 25 to 30% of our own potatoes is going to go to chip market, and the rest will go to the food service or the fresh side of it, so stores or whatever. We don't deal directly ourselves with any of the major chains. We find some advantages in that, but we do pack for other growers who are supplying the major chains. Today, the major chains want you to use their bag. So when you pack for these other people, it's not necessarily their bag. It's not your bag that you're putting them into. It's a bag that they want, a bag that Loblaws or Sobeys or Metro developed for themselves, and they want recognition of the product that's going in that bag. And those are the people that will dictate the price being paid for the product. We do market directly ourselves onto the food terminal, and you do, without any question, get good recognition out of that, because a lot of the food terminal is bought up by mom and pop stores in the greater city area, even outside of that. And whenever that happens, they will turn around and phone us back and say, I like those potatoes. How long can we get them? Well, one of the things you have to realize in the business is that's why we grow as many acres, as you mentioned, Jim, and many varieties. Certain potatoes are meant to be sold before Christmas. Certain potatoes are meant to store until June or July. Certain potatoes are meant for a certain time of the year. And in those varieties that I talk about, we don't grow very many reds ourselves because we cannot get good colored red potatoes. The good colored red potatoes comes from Western Canada, but Andrew does pack an awful lot of yellow flesh potatoes, whether that's Yukon Gold or other varieties that have a yellow flesh in them. And the whites There's certain people that definitely want the whites, but the whites are the potatoes that, and the larger size that go to the food sector, food service sector. Any other questions? I got to say a thank you to Krista for taking the video, some of the video with Bert been around, because the day she wanted to come, we had some help that didn't show up. And so I had to take on another job, and she and my wife and my sons, she rode with Aaron for a little while in the harvester, and she come in and talked to Pat, and Pat gave her a demonstration of the pack cups.
Well, I'll say one thing. It was quite the experience to see a real family operation. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any additional questions, we'll just direct them to the chat box, and we'll make sure to get them to Bert as well. And
There's one in the chat box there now, Kristen.
Oh, there is. Matt, would you like to ask, or are you available? Okay, so Matt is asking, did you see any major issues with COVID last year? Any shipping disruptions?
Our business changed from where we sell about 35% of our potatoes in the 10-pound bag and 65% of the potatoes to the food service sector, which is the large potatoes. A lot of wholesalers buy those that because they're already going into the store, they can take in the potatoes, the oranges, the tomatoes, everything that's in that side of it. Right at the very time that COVID started and got strong, our business did a total switch. We were asked for 50-pound bags of potatoes from Loblaws. We supplied them. I can tell you in many, many years of working with indirectly and directly with Loblaws, a 50-pound bag of potatoes in a Loblaws store has no market because people do not want, they don't have facility to store that bag of potatoes. They can take a 10-pound or they can take two 10-pound bags home and put them under the sink, but it doesn't work to have a 50-pound. We sold about 5 tractor trailer loads, which is about 1,200 bags on a tractor trailer load. And all of a sudden, the business started to switch back. And we're back today to where we are with 65% going in a 50-pound bag and 35% going in a 10-pound bag. The other big thing that has really happened, and I gotta say, look, congratulations and thank you to Dufferin Wellington Health Unit. It really affected how we could get the Mexicans here to work and quarantine. And in order for us to make them work properly, we were able to put them in the house where I was born and raised. That's where they live most of the time. But as soon as they come, that's where the quarantine people went in, so we knew where they were. And the people who were working here, we put them up in a hotel in Orangeville. That was a big extra work, certainly extra cost, but that's not the point. We're so glad to get these people that the cost sometimes isn't necessarily a big factor, but it sure created a lot of extra paperwork. And right now, of interest probably to a lot of people, in order for us to have the Mexicans here to work, Pat just filled out the application for next April. So we're got workers that we know are going to come next April. The January and the ones that are already here are 6 to 8 months. We knew. You never know who for sure is coming, but you do know that you've gone through Service Canada, and you do know you have 5, 4, 6, whatever, you've got that many coming. Those are the big things that have changed from the COVID side. I should mention that somebody mentioned earlier that all the things you have to take with you when you're ready to go, and that definitely included to the truck drivers. A lot of our truck drivers used to go into the the little room where the truck drivers sit and talk. That didn't happen anymore. They all have to sit in their trucks. They'll come out and tell you when they're unloaded, and you can move on with your travel then. And always wear masks.
Perfect. So again, any additional questions, just direct them to the chat box. And if Bert's on, maybe at the end, we can refer to more questions. Otherwise, we'll pass those along. So thanks again, Bert. And we'll turn things over to Alan Lyons to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you very much, Kristen. And thank you to all those who are attending tonight. This is a good crowd and a good, interesting group. While Dufferin County may be known as a major producer of potatoes and canola, it's also home to one of the largest producers of wholesale fresh market rhubarb in North America, and the only producer of forced rhubarb in Ontario, Lennox Farms. Edward French emigrated to Canada in 1881 and started a market garden in Etobicoke in 1887. His son and grandson continued to farm in that area until 1950, when Clarence moved the operation to Huttonville. With the fast residential growth of Brampton in the Brampton area, Bill and Diane French moved their Lennox Farm business from Huttonville to Melanchthon in 1988, and is now run by the fifth generation of the French family, Brian and his wife Jeanette. They currently farm about 500 acres of not only fresh rhubarb, but a variety of other fruit and vegetable crops for the wholesale market, as well as operating an on-farm market and an online store. I'll let Brian tell you the rest of the story about their operation.
Thank you. Just got to figure this out here. You do it, John. I have my wife here. She's very helpful in many ways, as you know. My daughter put this presentation together with me, and Kristen, how are we doing the videos? Are you going to play them?
We can try it on your end to see if it made a difference. If not, we'll just do it how we had originally planned. So we'll try.
Yep. Our operation is a lot different than Bert's. We don't have all that fancy equipment. We do have a Brussels sprout harvester, but everything else is harvested right here. So you can't see it? Okay. Yeah, it's all hand harvested anyways. So a little history of the family. I am the fifth generation. My wife and I are running the farm here. We do have 3 children that are a little young yet to decide if they want to take on the role or not. We have been farming in Ontario since 1887, and we have been growing rhubarb since the late 1800s. And forcing in our rhubarb sheds since about 1910. We are the 3rd generation farm gate market gardeners. My grandfather started in Huttonville area, and my father and mother did a lot of farm markets in Brampton, Mississauga, and Orangeville area. And then Jeanette and I started up the farm gate as well on the home farm here over 20 years ago, when we were done high school. So yeah. Some pictures of my wife and I and the kids. So we've been growing rhubarb for over 130 years. We grow about 90 acres of it. We harvest roughly 25 acres a year for fresh market, and we bring about 3 acres in the sheds every fall to force in the wintertime. And the rest of that 95 acres is rootstock to get ahead. And we always like to leave about 10 acres every year that we don't harvest, just to let that section get a little stronger for the next year. Some pictures of us working here. The rhubarb with the small yellow leaf is grown in the sheds. We plant it all in the end of October, and we just turn the heat on 6 weeks before we require that rhubarb. So the first building, we'll turn the heat on around Christmas time. So we're picking that in early February, and then we'll just keep bringing them on to get us through till middle of May. So they're growing in the dark. That's why the leaf is small and yellow, and the stalk is hardly any string in it, and it's a lot less tart than the outside rhubarb. I had a little video here. For some reason, my phone, when I was recording, the volume is down, and then it came up. So don't go thinking there's no volume there. We're going to try and see if this works here. If you can't hear it, let me know in a second. Can people hear that?
Oh, there's no sound, Brian.
Okay. Well, I can just talk over this.
Okay, I'll just, Brian, I can just share here quick.
Okay. The acre, so roughly 50 or 60,000 plants a year. We transplant out again. Because of forcing in the sheds in the wintertime, we use about 3 acres worth of roots for that. And after we force in the wintertime, the roots are garbage. So we always like to have root stock head, and we're actually picking this green variety because of all the rain this summer. We're actually able to still be harvesting rhubarb. So we're picking it this summer. Then we'll use those roots for rootstock next spring to plant back for either picking or for bringing into the sheds for forcing. We also grow playing at all?
red summer months, and we harvest about 6
Are you
to
still sharing your
7,000
screen?
pounds every day. 35,000 pounds a week, either for fresh market, retail stores, cider houses, beer. We've been pressing for the last few years for them. And we also process probably about 50 or 60,000 pounds a year, cut and washed in a 40-pound box for bakeries and preserve places, and wineries take that as well. So we've been growing rhubarb in the family for about 120 years, and forcing in the sheds for roughly 110 years. So we're well known for rhubarb in North America anyways. We're probably the largest grower, growing roughly 90 acres of rhubarb altogether. So this is our rhubarb. So this is a harvester we had built locally. We designed it with a local welding shop, and he built it for us. And then, like most farmers do, we added more height to it so we could get more rhubarb roots in. We can pour 4 apple bins full of roots in the harvester, and that will plant about an acre at a time for us. I'm gonna try this video. I think we figured out the sound, maybe. This one is very loud, so just, you hear that? Are you able to hear the noise? So we went to a 4-row planter from a 2-row planter, and we added the discs on the back to cover the roots. So in one pass we can plant and cover, whereas before we'd have to go with a cultivator after and bury the roots, just so they'll dry out.
So that saved a lot of time for us, for sure. This is a video of us bringing the roots in the fall time. These roots can weigh up to 120 pounds when you bring them out, depending if it's a wet fall or not. Good summer. And so I'll just show this here. That's an old Thomas windrower that we cut apart and made work for the job. And the roots are all planted tight in the shed, so you can barely get your foot in there when the rhubarb's growing. So that's about it for rhubarb. We also grow 50 acres of English peas, all hand-picked as well. We started growing them in the mid-90s. Used to grow a lot of broccoli and cauliflower, and we just tried to grow some peas up here, and they did grow really well on this soil and the climate. So we went from a couple acres, and we've been up to over 100 acres of peas, but we average out now to about 50, 55 acres of peas. So, we grow a Utrillo variety. It's an old variety that is really sweet. It's a big pod, which is nice for picking, obviously. And yeah, so we plant about an acre. We like to plant about 3 or 4 times a week, just so we always have nice fresh peas coming. We like to go through the patch a couple times. So we basically pick every day from July till we're gonna actually finish up this week, I think. So it's about 6 or 8 weeks. So see if this works here. Again, the sound will come up. We're in our pea patch here in the tip of North Dufferin. The next line to the north is Grey County. We started growing peas probably 26
People hear that?
years ago. Peas grow great on this land here in Dufferin County because it's very cold bottom
We
ground.
can hear it. It's just a bit choppy.
Okay, that's
Climate.
probably a storm going
Other
through now.
parts of the province, especially down country, grow peas. They kind of burn up by mid to late June, and we don't even start picking ours until July, and we'll go right through till September, mid-September. We grow roughly about 50 acres a year. It's planted in sequence of each other, so we always have a constant supply of fresh peas. It's all hand-picked. We have offshore guys from Trinidad. They'll pick anywhere from 100 to 150 bushels a day for us. And the biggest market it goes to is a lot of fruit stands and fine food stores buy it from us. This year we are experimenting with no-till peas. We've never done it before. We have a John Deere 7000 corn planter that we put some row cleaners on and made it into no-till. So last year this field was a grain crop followed by crimson clover, and the crimson clover was really high, beautiful crop, and we just let that winter kill off, and then we came in with some Roundup to clean up some weeds, and then we went in with the no-till. Again, it was an experiment. We ran into slug issues, which we've never dealt with before, but because of the residue and the clover that they, I guess they lived in the clover last fall. So because of that, we had them in here this spring. So we had to deal with slugs, which we pretty well got rid of them. And other than that, things are looking great. It's been a great year for peas, lots of rain, cooler weather. They love that. So this is our pea crop. Yeah, so we had slugs were just eating the leaves on the pea plants like crazy. So and if you rolled the plant over in there in about 10 o'clock in the morning, you'd see about 15 of them down there eating away. So we end up using a sluggo, which is like a pellet molluscicide or whatever you call it. And we actually had to go through twice. It was quite expensive, but you know, growing vegetables, the return is usually there. So something we had to do, and it did work for us. So
we were quite happy with the no-till. We still want to experiment a little bit with cover crops the previous year to see what will work, or we're thinking about planting some rye or oats next spring and kind of planting into that to make it a little more softer for the guys on their knees. That was the biggest complaint, was the ground was hard. So they're crawling on their knees all day. They have special pants made up with about 4 inches of foam sewed into the knee area, so to help them get through the day. So, and then our last final big crop is Brussels sprouts. So we're actually going to start harvesting next week. We grow, the video kind of explains everything here. So oh shoot. This is our Brussels sprout field. It's about 13 acres of Brussels sprouts. We are growing a few purple cauliflower and Romanesco broccoli as well in the same field because they use a lot of the same sprays and fertilizer. It's just easier to keep them together. Population on Brussels sprouts is roughly 8,500 plants to the acre. We have a transplanter. We grow the seedlings in the greenhouse, and we plant them out here around the 10th of May. It's now the middle of August, and the next week or two we will begin topping these out. And what I mean topping them out is the sprout is really small on the plant. There's one in every leaf node there. So in order to make those size up for the biggest market is Thanksgiving, you need to top out your plant, and that just means taking out that growing point, and that will begin filling the sprouts out. And each plant should produce 2 pounds, roughly 2 pounds of sprouts. And we have a harvester that we use to take the sprouts off the stalk, and I'll show a video of that as well. But we started growing sprouts roughly 23 years ago. We were growing about 40 acres of potatoes, and the equipment got old and tired, and Dad decided to get into Brussels sprouts. So it took a few years to figure out how to grow them well, but they do grow really well up here in North Dufferin County. We seem to get some rains that no one else seems to get, and the cooler climate as well is great for coal crops such as this. So we always look forward to September harvest. It's the last big push of the year, and it's kind of the challenge of the year, keeping these things alive and looking so good. So I actually enjoy growing Brussels sprouts quite a bit. So this is our Brussels sprout patch. So by the time we got finished topping those out last weekend, they were up to my chest in some of the spots there. So, you know, with all that rain in July, really helped that crop out, and looks like it's going to be a bumper crop for us. We do sell a lot of stalks. We just cut the stalk, take the leaves off, and sell it as is to a lot of farm markets and higher end stores like that. You know, because people don't know how they grow, so when they see how they grow, it's quite unique for them, and they purchase it just as they've never seen it before. So this is our harvester here. We have to go ahead. We like to go out about 6 in the morning while it's cool, and you strip the leaves by hand, and then we do about an acre a day, so that's 8,000-9,000 plants we strip by hand, and then we have a weed eater with a like a chainsaw. It's got chainsaw teeth on it, and you just zip down and hit the plants, and then we pick them up and we grade our #1 stalks that we'll sell in the stock, or we make a pile of stuff we're going to run through the harvester. So we built this harvester. We got the heads from Holland, And we basically built everything ourselves and pieced things together. And it made it quite efficient for us. We did have a self-propelled harvester on tracks from Holland as well. And, you know, just because the plants in Ontario, they're so lush and green still this time of year when we're trying to harvest, it was just a nightmare the way that one was set up. So this harvester we built probably does triple the production that we're able to do with the other one. So here's a little quick video of the harvester. So we like to get everything harvested and in the shed by probably noon, so we're out of the heat of the day, and then we grade and pack into our box. We pack 20 pounds. The industry used to be 25-pound with ice on it. We moved away from that just because you have the headaches of testing your ice for E. coli and all that stuff, and there's a lot less headaches without the ice. We find it keeps fresher anyways. So yeah, so we pack 20-pound box, and then we put 6 stocks in a box for the retail stores. And for the farm markets, they like to buy it in bins of, we put 80 in a bin. So, and they're usually the longer stocks. So, for soil rejuvenation, vegetables need really good soil. So like I said, we've been going no-till with the peas. We also went no-till with, we really don't grow any cash crop anymore. We used to rent some land out and grow a little bit of grain, but we decided just to go into cover crops and try to build the soil up really good for the vegetable crops. So here's a quick little video on that. So our rotations on the farm in between vegetables have always been hay crops after Brussels sprouts. We like to leave 3 to 5 years in between each crop for rotation, just to help control disease and insect pressure. So we've always used hay crop as a good rotation, but the last couple of years we've been going into no-till cover crops. So this half of the field was pea, barley, oats this spring, which was mowed down roughly 3 weeks ago. We're now in the middle of August, and we actually just seeded in some sorghum grass and clovers and sunflowers and some other items in this half here for a cover crop mix to try and help loosen the soil and add the organic matter into the soil for the vegetable crop. As far as the hay goes, we let a local farmer take off the first cut, and then we will mow the second cut in ourselves to get some of that organic matter and help put the carbon back into the soil. So it seems to be working well. We're still trying to figure out no-till and vegetables, but we're on the right track. We've had a lot of heavy rains this summer, talking like 2-3 inches in 45 minutes, and we've had hardly any puddling on the farm within 15 minutes after the rains, whereas some of the neighbors have had some lakes on the fields for a few hours. So it's definitely working for us, and the payback is obviously in the vegetable crop. So quite happy with the results so far. That's kind of our rotation for the vegetables. We do rent probably 50 or 60 acres out to a neighbor for corn that used to grow really well before peas. So we're still trying to figure that out. Corn really does help clean out the weeds in your field. So so this is a new adventure we tried this year. You know, you always got to have some fun on the farm and try new things and keep your head in the game. So we tried to grow a few heirloom tomatoes and sweet peppers. So there's a little video on that. So here in our new greenhouse, this is a new venture that we took on this summer. We built the greenhouse in 1st of May. We had the plants in our other propagating greenhouses, and we planted them in here 2nd week of May. These are heirloom tomatoes, and we also have sweet peppers on the outside 2 rows. I really have no clue what I'm doing here. I've never grown tomatoes before in my life, so YouTube was very helpful, and just farmer friends that have grown them before have been very helpful, and the local agronomist has helped me out a lot too. Still a lot to learn, but all in all, it's been fun, a new project, and we're actually getting some beautiful tomatoes out of here, so it's always fun to try something new on the farm. These are our tomatoes. So those got up to over 10 feet tall in the greenhouse. We ended up cutting the growth point out about 10 days ago to try and get the fruit to ripen a little faster, because you know, winter's coming, it's going to get cold, there's no heat in that greenhouse. So for the first year it did pretty good. There's roughly 650 plants in there, and we were able to sell them through the farm gate market and the online sales. We do a produce box every week, so you know, we're moving them through there. So yeah, it was pretty good. We had to learn a lot of stuff. We got some bumblebees in there to help with pollination, and you know, before that, my wife and I are going out with electric toothbrushes and touching all the flowers and trying to get them to go. And we were just, you know, figuring things out. So I think next year will be better, as farmers say. So this is a little video we put together, especially in vegetable farming. You know, your profit is usually the waste. I'm not sure how really it is in cash cropping or not, if you have more areas to put your product or not, but in vegetables, you know, when fruit goes bad, it's garbage. You don't get anything for it. So there's a little video of how we deal with that. So this is a little section about waste is your profit on the farm. So luckily for us, we have a retail market, and we're able to do a lot of neat products with our waste. You've also seen it in farms like Beatty's with their potatoes, making vodka, and a lot of the apple farms are now making hard ciders and ciders with their apples that fall on the ground, or old varieties that can't sell anymore. So in most cases, that is your profit. And there's a little video of what we make with our stuff.
So our main crop is rhubarb, and a while ago we were noticing when we were processing rhubarb, lots of the juice was just pouring off the machine and going down the drain, and we thought, oh well, why don't we collect this rhubarb juice? And we've been selling it to wineries and cider houses. Even a brewery was making some rhubarb beer. So we were selling the rhubarb we were collecting, and then we started pressing rhubarb and collecting the juice to make our own rhubarb juice and rhubarb strawberry juice. So we make it in 500 ml jars and 1 liter jars, and we sell that here on the market, at the market. We also use the juice to make fruit syrup. So we make lots of different varieties, but rhubarb syrup is pretty unique and popular. and we market it to go on pancakes or waffles over ice cream. It also makes nice salad dressing if you mix it with the vinegar. So these are just a couple of products.
And what's nice about rhubarb for us is we literally, besides the leaves, have no waste. I've been trying for a few years to use the pulp from when we press the rhubarb, and this year I was finally able to get some dried pulp, and we actually made a flour with it. So it's a beautiful pinky brown color. We actually just got this the other day, so we have to experiment with it a little more, but we're going to market it more for gluten-free products and just to bakeries themselves. So.
Another one of our crops is Brussels sprouts, and one year we had a really hard time selling the minis, so we thought, why don't we pickle them? And so we've been pickling mini Brussels sprouts for a couple of years now, and that's another kind of unique and popular product that we can sell. So can't sell something, turn it into a pickle or a juice. We also save all our thirds, like our rhubarb with marks or splits, or it's not long enough, and we chop it up and freeze it. We use it for baking. We make rhubarb ice cream. We started that this year. We char rhubarb and use it for barbecue sauce. So we pretty much have no waste. Anything that's kind of not sellable in its original form, we repurpose it into something else.
So there's the rhubarb ice cream. It's made with our winter rhubarb, so it's a very nice rhubarb flavor without all the tartness, so it's very good.
Whenever we have a crop that's producing really, really well and we can't sell things to the fresh market, we often make soups or any kind of canned goods. So we made corn soup last year. One year we had tons of zucchini we couldn't market, so we made zucchini relish, pesto when we have an abundance of basil, even our sunflowers when we're having a really good crop, we cut the heads and we sell them as birdseed.
So that's the profit or waste is profit section on the farm, and yeah, hope you enjoyed that.
So we do have a farm market. Like I said, we've been 3 generations in the retail business. We support a lot of local farmers with we get the meats from our neighbors and flowers and potatoes when we don't have any of our own. So we try and keep it as local as we can. We are at the food terminal selling our other crops, so it's easy for me to get stuff and bring it home. So we also wholesale. That's my alarm clock. I'd get up about 10 to 1 on Thursday mornings and Friday mornings, and then we go down the food terminal. We sell direct to the stores and restaurants, and then we get home about 8 in the morning, and then we finish our day up till about 5 or 6 at night. So it's a long day for 5-6 months a year, but it's all I've known, and enjoy doing it. So hope my kids feel the same down the road here. So that was all my presentation there. I don't know if people have questions or not.
Julie is in the chat section here asking, where is your retail store?
So we're on County Road 124, 10 minutes north of Shelburne, just before 21, County Run 21. We're open till Thanksgiving.
Who is the mastermind behind some of these ideas, like the rhubarb ice cream and how you turn this waste to profit?
My wife and I work really well together, so we'll always bounce ideas off each other. And she came up with the ice cream one, and I'm not sure if I came up with the juice one, or but we were just a good team, and we like to cook, and that's where you come up with some of your best ideas is, just experimenting, and, if we like it and hopefully other people like it, we'll just kind of roll with it. So my wife wants to talk. She has more. What do you have to say? Nothing? Okay. Yeah, but no, we work well together. So we do a pickled asparagus. So we had lots of asparagus in the spring, so we pickle it, and we like the brine from that so much. So that's kind of one we kind of started off with the Brussels sprouts, and they taste really wicked. So we sell a lot of them.
Any more questions for Brian? All right, well, your operation, you have a lot going on, and we really appreciate you sharing with us tonight. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of the evening and the end of the virtual Crop Walk series. We'd like to thank again our speakers tonight, truly highlighting the diversity of Dufferin agriculture and taking the time to put together these presentations and their time tonight with us. With that, we'll end the recording, and Lori will have the presentation available for our membership. Stay safe, everyone, with these tornado watch.